Hello everybody, it's the weekend, which is fantastic, and I don't have to work at all, so I can really get stuck into the garden today as I want to. But what a beautiful day. Oh, it's absolutely stunning. It's going to get to about 10 degrees today. The wind's been coming from the north, it's now moved from the south, so it's a warmer wind, much milder. Might have a bit of Saharan sand apparently coming through and creating a sort of mist. That's tomorrow. But today I really want to get on with pruning. And pruning freaks some people out completely, I know. They don't know where to start, some don't know where to stop. And it's really important that before you prune, you think about what you're trying to achieve, because in nature, plants don't really get pruned. They get nibbled and they get, blown down by winds or whatever, but they don't get pruned into, for an aesthetic reason or to produce more flowers or whatever. So before you start, think about where you're heading. Now, I want to get stuck into this big sweet bay behind me, Laurus nobilis, which is it's a Mediterranean plant. So it can cope with very dry soil, but here we're on clay and it's wet in the winter and it's absolutely loving it. So they're pretty tough plants once they get going. Often people plant them in pots and containers, they're sort of those lollipops outside their front door, and they get wind scorched, they dry out, or they get waterlogged, and that will kill them off and the leaves go brown, and it's quite hard to get them to recover after that. But once they get to this size, they can really take quite a hard pruning as well. And that's a sort of general rule of thumb, really. The larger the plant, more established the plant, you can prune through the dormant period in the winter to take some quite large branches off. If you're just doing a little bit of delicate pruning, it's generally after flowering. But here, this is perfect time to get stuck into it. And I'm aiming to raise the crown. So, take the leaves and some of the branches off and the stems. It's really congested, up to maybe 2 meters, 2.5, 3 meters even, so that I can see through it. It's less blobby, the idea, and it sort of draw your eyes through. Wherever you look at it from, it's sort of overgrown, it's out of proportion with the rest of the garden, and I want to turn it into something majestic. So I just want to show you, before I start, and I will have to put this down because I can't actually use a selfie stick and a chainsaw at the same time. No, I'm not that good. But if you go into the branches here, you can see how dense it is. There's a few really nice chunky thick ones that I'll keep. I'm going to thin out all the thin ones, all the ones that are growing inwards or rubbing with each other. Anyway, I'm going to try the old time lapse and see where we end up. The ladder is great as well. It's a tripod ladder and each of the legs are adjustable. So on uneven ground, they're brilliant. They're very, very stable. I'll keep standing back during the process, and that's really important. 360 degrees walk round, it keeps standing back, because once you've taken a bit off, you can't put it back on. Looking for a nice open balanced shape. There we are. Look at that. I'm really pleased with that, I've got to say. Really pleased with that. When the light comes through, it's beautiful. I mean, the light in this garden is gorgeous anyway. And now, you can see through here to the other part of the garden. You see its trunk. It's got a lovely trunk. Really beautiful colour and texture. And then you can look up into its crown as well. I'll show it from you from this side as well. Might have to move that little shed. It sort of doesn't quite relate to it, does it, anymore? That's the granddaughter's Wendy house. I think we can find a better spot for it, but I really love the way it holds that space around it. You know, it's suddenly become a major feature of the garden. It was well, I kept saying it was a bit of a blob. I mean, it was a blob. Now, structural, evergreen. I'll probably take a little bit more width off it, you know, as it grows. It's a little bit wide at the top, but to be honest, I'm quite tired now. Yep, there's a bit of a gap, but it was those two branches that were growing right into each other, fusing together. One was completely sort of wound around the other one and growing inwards, so it had to come out. But you know, what's going to be interesting is how this bay responds to all this pruning as well, because I expect it to put on a lot of growth over the next year or two. It's taken me about 2.5 hours. There's a lot of clearing up to do. There's all the branches. I mean, you know, 2.5 hours of pruning and cutting back, but look, there's going to be hours of tidying all this up, chipping it, logging the bigger stuff. But look at that, I'm so pleased with the result, I've got to say. It is now majestic, it's sculptural, it's architectural, it's beautiful, and I know it intimately now, which is really nice. You know, I feel like I've really connected with it and turned it into a great asset in this garden. We are mates, we're like that now, me and the bay, and we will be for many years to come. It's great, it's a huge asset to this garden, and I think it looks great, so I'm very pleased with myself. Health and safety, hard hat was very important. Actually, a branch landed on my head, and so, you know, this played an important part. And also the visor as well, because there's sticks and twigs and you really don't want to get one in your eye. So health and safety first. Yeah, I've taken about 30% out, and so it's going to respond. You know, it's got this big root system, and it's going to respond this year by putting on lots of growth. So I expect some suckers to come up from the base. I'll have to keep cutting those down. There'll be some epicormic growth, probably, which is that sort of growth that you get inside, those sort of vertical shoots that you get inside the branches. I'll take those off as well, and then I expect a lot of foliage around the outside and to fill out as well, which will be great because it sort of needs to fill out naturally now. But the birds have, you know, the birds have come in, they love the open canopy, and I just love the way, you know, I can see through it, I can see the whole garden. It's really achieved what I set out to do, so I'm very pleased with the results. And you know, you might have a shrub like this, well, maybe not this big, but a bit of a blobby evergreen shrub in your garden, and you think, you know, I've clipped it back, what can I do with it? It's not doing anything for you. Well, try doing something like this. You know, lift the crown, take the lower leaves off, thin it out, see if you can turn it into something that's a real asset to the garden, rather than just a bit of a, as I keep saying, blob, which this is no longer. I hope you agree with that.